Max Verstappen crossed the line in third, just 7/10 from Charles Leclerc, another podium that should have been second. But hours after the race, Red Bull engineers made a shocking discovery under the RB21's floor. The car Verstappen drove for 71 laps wasn't at full strength, it was damaged from the very start. What they found explained everything: his incredible tire management, his calm under pressure, and why even broken machinery can't stop Max Verstappen. He started fifth, not ideal for a driver obsessed with control, but precisely the kind of challenge that sharpens him. Red Bull had made a bold choice, the medium tire. While others gambled on the fragile softs for early track position, Verstappen's plan was endurance. In Mexico, that was like betting against the physics of the circuit itself. But he believed in the long game. He wasn't going to chase chaos, he was going to manage it. Let them fight, he'd told his engineer before the race. We'll get them later. That calm, almost surgical patience would become the thread that defined his entire afternoon. When the lights went out, chaos exploded. Four cars, side by side, charged toward turn 1. Hamilton darted right, Leclerc defended the inside, Norris tried to split the gap, and Verstappen threaded the middle with millimetric precision. Grass, dust, and debris filled the air, but somehow the RB21 came through clean, or so everyone thought. For a few seconds, it was pure survival, a dance of instinct and control. Verstappen didn't win the start with aggression, he won it with awareness. He saw what others didn't, the empty space that would exist a heartbeat later, and took it. He was fourth, alive, and in the fight. But beneath the car, something small and unseen had already cracked. The crowd saw perfection. The engineers saw performance. Verstappen felt something else. A whisper from the chassis, a subtle shift in balance, a rear end that didn't quite trust the front. "Rear feels light," he said, almost casually, as if describing a change in wind direction. The team checked the telemetry. Nothing unusual. The car's numbers were clean. But Verstappen's senses go beyond numbers. He could feel the air moving differently under his seat, the rhythm of the floor had changed. It was the kind of thing you don't detect with sensors, only with experience. In that moment, he knew. Something wasn't right. The race's first act was pure theater. After surviving the chaotic start, Verstappen had settled into a steady rhythm behind Leclerc and Norris. The plan was working: stay close, protect the tires, and let strategy unfold. But on lap 6, Formula One's timeless rivalry reignited. Hamilton's Ferrari SF25 was ahead, weaving defensively on the straight. Verstappen, closing fast, pulled into the slipstream and went for the inside line into turn 1. Two of the sport's sharpest minds met at 200 miles per hour. There was no hesitation, no bluff, just commitment. The Ferrari squeezed, the Red Bull refused to yield, and for a split second, the world held its breath. Carbon brushed carbon. A fraction of contact. No spin, no crash, but enough to change the physics of one car forever. From the cockpit, Verstappen felt it instantly, a subtle shift, almost imperceptible to anyone else. The RB21's balance had changed. The rear wasn't rotating cleanly. The downforce through mid-corner felt unstable, inconsistent. "Rear feels light in rotation," he said on the radio, tone even, emotionless. The Red Bull pit wall checked the telemetry, nothing abnormal. Tire pressures were fine. Suspension loads were stable. There was no reason, in the data, for the driver to feel what he felt. But Verstappen's senses are calibrated beyond numbers. He doesn't need confirmation. He already knows. What the data missed was microscopic but catastrophic. The right-hand floor strake, one of the most sensitive aerodynamic components under the car, had cracked from the contact. It was invisible to cameras, invisible to sensors, but critical to stability. The airflow beneath the RB21 was now asymmetrical, robbing Verstappen of nearly 6% of rear downforce. In Mexico, where thin air already strangles performance, that's the difference between grip and guesswork. For most drivers, that would trigger panic or hesitation. Verstappen responded by recalculating instantly. He adjusted brake bias, shifted his cornering lines, and rebalanced the car with his own driving inputs. Lap by lap, his driving evolved to match the car's changing behavior. The telemetry later revealed the brilliance of his adaptation. Through turns 4 and 5, he was lifting earlier to ease the aero load. In the stadium section, he was opening his steering earlier to protect the rear tires. His throttle trace looked like a sculptor's line, perfectly smooth, no spikes, no drops. He was compensating for the floor damage with pure feel, said Laurent Mekies after the race. It's like he built a new aerodynamic map in his head and drove to it. That's not exaggeration. That's Verstappen's reality, a driver who doesn't just react to physics, but collaborates with it. Meanwhile, on the pit wall, Red Bull's engineers were puzzled. The numbers didn't match what they were seeing on track. Verstappen's lap times were astonishingly consistent, within a tenth of Leclerc's Ferrari despite being on the slower tire. Yet his radio messages hinted at instability. "Feels like rear load shifting," he said. But the data still said everything was normal. "He's managing degradation perfectly," the strategist replied. It wasn't degradation. It was survival. Verstappen was driving a car that was aerodynamically compromised, but still fast enough to frighten the competition. And no one but him knew why. What makes this moment legendary isn't the damage itself, it's what Verstappen did with it. Most drivers would lose confidence when the car stops behaving predictably. Verstappen gains focus. He doesn't wrestle the car, he listens to it. He interprets every vibration, every slip of the tires, as information. By lap 10, he had built a completely new relationship with the RB21, based not on ideal balance, but on instinctive compensation. He was driving the car, the damage, and the airflow all at once, said Mekies. It's a kind of mechanical empathy we can't program. It's human. When the checkered flag fell in Mexico, Red Bull's garage felt a strange mix of pride and confusion. Verstappen had finished third just behind Leclerc in a race that never quite looked comfortable. His radio messages hinted at instability, yet the data told a different story. His lap times were clean, consistent, and almost eerily precise. Something didn't add up. Laurent Mekies, the team's technical director, decided to go deeper. "Let's pull the floor sensors manually," he told his engineers after the race. It was a simple instruction that would reveal one of the most fascinating engineering mysteries of the season. Back in the garage, under the harsh fluorescent lights, the RB21 was lifted onto its stands. What looked like a pristine Formula One car from above told a different story underneath. There, hidden along the right-hand floor strake, was a jagged hairline fracture only a few centimeters long, but enough to disrupt the delicate airflow that keeps the car glued to the asphalt. It wasn't visible on the standard inspections or through the real-time telemetry. The break had been microscopic, invisible to the sensors that measure aerodynamic pressure. And yet it explained everything Verstappen had been feeling from the very first laps. Mekies stared at the damage in silence. "He drove 70 laps with this?" he finally asked. The answer was yes, and faster than almost anyone else on the grid. The engineers reran the aerodynamic models, and the results were jaw-dropping. The damage had caused a measurable 6% reduction in diffuser efficiency. That translates to a significant loss of rear grip, particularly in medium-speed corners where the car relies on stable airflow beneath it. In theory, Verstappen should have been half a second per lap slower. Instead, the data showed an average loss of just 0.08 seconds. He was driving around the laws of physics, one Red Bull aerodynamicist said later. He didn't just adapt, he redefined what adaptation means. The telemetry confirmed it. Verstappen's steering inputs were smoother than any other driver's, his throttle modulation perfectly compensating for the downforce imbalance. He had turned a broken car into a balanced one using nothing but instinct. What stunned Mekies most wasn't just the performance, but the timing. Verstappen had made his first adjustments to brake bias and differential settings just 2 laps after the incident with Hamilton, long before the engineers even suspected a problem. "He felt the airflow changing through the seat before our instruments could detect it," Mekies said. "He's like a human wind tunnel." The floor's structural vibration pattern had shifted slightly after the fracture, causing tiny oscillations in downforce that no sensor could pick up in real time. But Verstappen's body could. His spine, his hands, his feet all acting as sensors far more precise than the car's electronics. By the time the team reviewed the complete race telemetry, they realized Verstappen's driving inputs had effectively compensated for 80% of the aerodynamic loss. His brake pressure curve had changed shape, his throttle pickups were delayed by fractions of a second, and his steering angle through critical corners like turn 7 was reduced by exactly the amount needed to stabilize airflow at the rear. No one told him to do it. He simply did it. He was managing the damage dynamically, every lap, Keynes explained. It's not just control, it's predictive correction. He feels what's about to happen before it happens. It was the kind of ability that can't be trained. It's something built from years of racing at the edge of chaos,